Hi, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I am your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew.
Still take a lot of good. That whole time of my life, for them 4 years I was on meth, wasn't a big waste. I was out in Arizona delivering pizzas up for like 7 days and seeing shadow people. And they'd always ask me, like, oh, you want to hit this? And I'd be like, nope. To those people that are coming to get it, they're going to smoke some of theirs with you, and you're going to have a little extra in your pocket. And this one guy would be like, oh, no, I don't speed with the brakes on, man. You know in your head that it's not good and you want to stop.
How would you change people's perception about recovery?
I did not want her to see me like that, and that was a big enough thing to help me get through the beginning times.
Hi, welcome to the Perception Podcast. I am your host, Thomas Casey Zellers, and today we are hopefully going to change your perception on things that you thought you already knew. And joining me in the studio today is a good friend of mine and also a coworker, Chris Soderlund.
Hello.
Now, today's topic of the show is going to be a little bit heavier, and so my notes are a little different from what I normally do.
Oh, now you got me worried. Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about addiction, and we're going to be talking about recovery, and really ever since I've met you, like you've had a very interesting story to tell, I think. So I think it's only fair that, everybody hears it, and hopefully anybody listening, your perception has changed about addiction and recovery and just what that whole process looks like. So I guess I'll just hand it off to you a little bit, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, I guess, for starters. So.
Oh, before the addiction?
Yeah, before everything, yeah.
I guess born and raised in a small town, outside of a small city, north of Indianapolis. Single mom with, I had, there's like 6 of us all together.
Oh, wow, so you have 5 siblings?
Yeah.
That's like, oh, man.
Yeah. And I'm the only,
So was it a packed house? Did you share a bedroom?
oh yeah, definitely. The whole time. Yeah. I'm the bastard child in the middle. I got the love of that, being so, yeah. So that did make things different for me, growing up and everything. I remember
Different how?
Well, for starters, my mom didn't let me know. She never told me anything about my dad or anything. And I remember sitting there.
Oh, you mean different as in like the parental figures in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or she didn't let me know. I had the same name as the same last name as my older brother and sister. And so I thought I was in the same family with them. And when their dad would come pick them up on visitation, every other weekend or whenever he came and stuff, I can remember sitting there crying, being like, why doesn't he take me? What's wrong with me? Yeah. And it took some time. And there was actually a time that I got to give it up to this man. He took me. I can remember going and meeting my step brothers and sisters of his side and everything. He took me one weekend because the way I would cry every time.
Wow.
And then, I don't know, he must have a talk with my mom, because then I don't remember crying anymore after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was wild. I didn't even learn who my dad was until my first round of getting busted with some marijuana, when I was a teenager and sitting in the probation officer's office, and he asking my mom about, like, okay, what's your name and blah, 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 his father's name. And she said my dad's name. And I just remember looking over at her, that first time I ever heard my dad's name said.
What was that like?
Oh, that was just crazy. That's why I just turned. I just remember looking at her like, whoa, I actually heard my dad's name come out of her mouth,
Yeah.
like it was nothing. And
Was there like, I guess, like a chill that maybe went down your spine or something, or like kind of like what they say, like that out of body experience at all, or?
Yeah, it would have been more something like that. Yeah, all of a sudden I wasn't sitting in that probation officer's room anymore or anything. It was just me and mom, boom, floating in that
But it
moment.
was a little bit of a shock to
Oh,
the system a little bit.
definitely.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't even meet my family, my dad's side of the family, until his funeral.
Really?
Yeah. My grandma told me, I was living with her at the time, uh, that, well, I thought you should know your dad died and his funeral is blah, 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 whenever it was and stuff.
Hmm.
I thought you'd need to know. She said, I've always known, kept track of him, and I was just waiting for you to be ready.
You had
And I
never
guess
you'd never met him?
yeah, I never met him. So I guess she just considered me never ready, or she would have had us meet up. And so
The first time you ever saw your father was at his funeral?
never even saw him. It was a closed casket.
It was a closed casket.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have been the way for any child, the only time they ever see their parent,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Golly, man.
So there's that little aspect. Like, bro, that makes me lovely.
So then, going from there, from childhood to teenage years, what was it stepping out of those teenage years and finally, like, becoming your own man without knowing was it what did your father die before that time, or?
No, I was like in my mid-20s.
Oh,
I
okay.
was already married and raising a family, but we're coming out of, teenage life. I made a conscious decision. I, was seeing this girl that already had a child. And it was actually another weird aspect of my life. It was actually my best friend growing up. It was his daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was with this girl and uh ended up, teenage fooling around, not being safe, got
Mhm.
pregnant, and so she had this child at like the age of 15. And then it was like, later times when I was just a young adult,
Mhm.
where I worked, I passed by this ice cream stand that she worked at,
Mhm.
and I'd stop by and get my whatever shake or malt or something, and talk with her. And then over that summer of doing that, I fell in love with her and, started dating her. And
All over some sweets.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's real. Those storybook parts of my life. Like, man, yeah, I met my, wife.
Did you tell her she's sweeter than,
That way.
the ice cream man?
No, I wasn't cheesy, man. I wasn't cheesy like that. I was being cool, man. Oh, I was being cool and smooth like the ice cream, yeah. But yeah, and so I at a young age, I was only like 20 years old. I
Mhm.
made that conscious decision that was gonna marry this chick and take on her and the child as my own. And I did. And then we started a family of our own and had my son, just about a year after we were married.
Mhm.
And then it was a few years later for my youngest daughter. But yeah, did all that. And then one of the biggest things in my life, it was a life-changing thing, was an accident I was in, riding a scooter around and flipped over and hit my head. And I mean, I was still with it. I didn't get knocked unconscious or nothing, but it was a nurse that was waiting to pick her boys up from the little league practice that saw it happen, and she called the ambulance already.
Oh, wow.
And I'm glad she did. There was somebody there like that that saw it and immediately called
So
ambulance
you
because
were on a scooter, you flipped over, and just hit your head on the road or something, or?
like the curb. Yeah.
Oh, the curb, okay.
Yeah. And so she saw that and knew that I needed to go get checked out at the hospital. I ended up having to get a lifeline down to Indy.
Wow.
And there's like 6 days of my life that poof are
You just
gone.
don't remember.
I've even years now, that was back in what, 2003. This happened. I've still never had a glimpse of any of that time. But when I was in the ICU for them 6 days, I was awake and talking to people and,
But you just
you
can't
know,
remember any of that.
yeah.
Wow.
I can't remember that. But through that, when I went back, after I came back, that's the way I look at it. Like I came back and, I did my scientific research like I had been taught in school,
Yeah.
to go through and try to
Yeah,
figure out.
and be caught.
I know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And that's where I learned to do my research that it had been 6 days is my space of time I'm missing,
Really?
in my memories.
So you figured that you didn't have anybody else tell you that? That was you figuring it out?
Well, I was
Really?
figuring out, yeah. Yeah, that was crazy, man. I had to do my own research. I visited back all the places I had been, and at the ICU, the ladies there definitely remembered me. They called me the, Incredible Hulk Houdini. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I gotta figure out why that.
Okay,
Did they ever tell you?
oh, yeah, yeah, they told me the story. So, okay, the story goes, man, and it's written in my medical stuff too.
It's in your
Um,
medical.
yeah, it's written in there. But I don't know. I start flipping out, and so it took like 3 or 4 guys to hold me down to strap me to the gurney or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're the incredible.
Okay, and so they're like, "Okay, he's strapped down, all good to go," and they go back around the business. Next thing they know, here I am running naked down the hallways, man. Yeah, you can't keep me down, so somehow
Get out.
I don't know, they don't know,
That's
now.
why you're the incredible Hulk Houdini.
Yes. 'Cause yep, to this little guy here, 150 pounds wet, it took 4 guys to hold me down and strap me down, and then I made it out of them, restraints. We can't yeah, yeah. I'm but, sorry, I don't remember that part. That story had to be told to me. I love it though.
So moving past that a little bit now.
Okay.
So you spent some time out in Arizona. When did you move to Arizona?
Well, I've been out there twice, and actually that's what, both times is what, introduced me to meth.
Okay,
Um
so was it just meth that what you were addicted to, or was it other things?
No, I've never had a problem with anything else. I never even when I got in trouble for marijuana a couple different times, I got court ordered to go to, like, NA and AA classes.
Yeah, yeah.
I could never understand these people.
Mhm.
They could have such a problem with alcohol or any other drugs, like, they just can't take, one's too many and a thousand's never enough, they say.
Mm.
I
Like you
couldn't
just
get
couldn't
that.
relate to them?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't relate. I never had a problem like that with anything, like, with the
Why was it just like easier for you to put down a bottle than it was, say, for them, or?
Yeah, I could just drink what I wanted, and when I was done, I was done. To them, it was just like, no, if they picked up one, they were on a 3-day bender or something. It
Yeah.
was just, yeah, it was given.
So I guess guide me through because you said it was 2 times?
Yeah.
So guide me through the first one, how you got there. How did that become, like, your vice,
Oh,
essentially, or
all right. Well, it's kind of interesting story on how I ended up going out there the first time too. I was dating this chick, and she was crazy, man. I'll tell you what, dude. She beat on me a couple times. I had black eye and stuff at work. People made fun of me, yeah, because I didn't hit her back. It's a woman, and didn't hit her back.
Yeah.
And then there was one time where she was drunk and getting going again, and I remember telling her, I was like, "Look, if you swing at me, I can only hold my fist for so long. I'm gonna treat you like a man if you wanna come out a man." And she came at me, and I decked her, grabbed my wallet and keys, ran out the door, hopped in my car,
Mhm.
and she come chasing out after me, and she was beating on my window. I just backed up, and I guess I backed up over her foot, blew her big toe out.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I get back home, and then a buddy of mine that lived across the street from her called me and said, "Look, dude, the cops are gonna be looking for you because she had to go to the hospital about her toe you ran over and stuff." And of course, they're asking questions. And so they're gonna get your name and everything. And
How
so,
long was that abuse going on before you finally just said, like, "This is it, like, enough is enough," or
well, I only dated her maybe 6 months,
okay.
but it was the whole relationship was just crazy drinking and stupid,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I made a decision. Sitting home that night, freaked out about like, "Oh, man, they're gonna have a warrant for me. What do I gotta do? What do I do?" I decided all of a sudden, I'm gonna go out to Arizona and visit a buddy of mine, actually the best friend whose daughter I had been racing. You know? It it's really weird and intertwined, man. Yeah, my life, woo. But, so I decided I'm gonna go visit him and packed all my shit up in my tracker
Mhm.
and went out to Arizona. and landed at his doorstep a couple days later. And then I mean, it was a weird thing. I mean, he had been into meth for, geez, by that point, it was probably a good 15 years at that point.
Really?
Yeah, he'd already been in meth, and the stories I heard from him and what had gone on around his house, and well, so I'm there. I'm just a regular everyday pothead at that point, and I'm living there. I got a job at Papa John's, out there in Arizona, delivering pizzas and stuff.
Oh, so you were just delivering pizzas. You weren't actually making the pizzas.
No, well, I could make them too.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'd make and deliver.
Yeah.
But and then
I'm more of a Pizza Hut guy myself, but
oh,
carry on.
yes, yeah, yeah, I can go for that now. Yeah, because I've worked Papa John's for so many years, I got sick of it. But yeah, it'd be like so I'd work like kind of like a second shift, you know.
Mm.
I wouldn't, I'd go in at say 3 or 4 in the
Didn't
afternoon.
work till about like 10 o'clock at night or
Or
something.
well, no, I'd close, so I wouldn't even get home until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I mean that was my shift. So then I'm
2 or 3 in the
leaving.
morning. What goes on in a pizza shop?
Yeah, well, because I mean they on especially like at the weekends, they may not close till 1 a.m. and then we got to clean up or
Really?
mop and blah blah blah.
Just for like the late night pizza stuff or whatever.
Oh yeah, you'd be
Really?
surprised how many deliveries happen that late. But so I'd be waking up at like noon or 1 p.m. or something, and I'd come out of my room and there'd be, there's the meth heads all freaking sitting around the table passing the pipe, and they'd always ask me like, "Oh, you want to hit this?" And I'd be like, "Nope, it's not for me." And then I'd load my bowl of weed and ask them, "Now you want to hit this?" And there was one guy, I always loved this expression. And I don't know why, but it sounded so cool. And this one guy would be like, "Oh no, I don't speed with the brakes on, man." And I got it. I was like, "Yeah, I get it,
I
man."
love that. I'm gonna steal that. We're gonna steal that.
This is a good one.
Unashamedly, I'm on camera right here. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
I'm stealing this.
Speed with the brakes on. No, I learned later, I figured it out because this guy at Papa John's I work with, this young kid, parents all rich and shit, and he had this, I don't know what kind of car it was, but cool, like race type car. And he would sit and do burnouts in the parking lot.
Oh,
And
I'm
that's
sure
what
that was a lot of fun for the neighbors.
yeah. So that's what you're doing. You're slamming the accelerator, but you're holding the brakes. And so then back tires are just sitting there spinning.
Spinning.
You burn out, that's speeding with the brakes on, you're going nowhere, but real fast. You're going nowhere. Yeah. But but eventually it they wouldn't hound me though. It wasn't like they were just trying to get me to hit the pipe. "Oh, come on, man. Oh no, you're gonna
So there
love it.
wasn't.
Oh no."
So there
They would
wasn't a
just
peer pressure. There was.
so
Okay, hey, you want it? Oh no. Okay.
yeah. They'd ask me, but every day they would ask me that the one time.
Hey.
Every day. They didn't like after 3 or 4 times realize, okay, this guy don't do it. So no, they still would ask me every day, but just one time and then not put any pressure or whatever. But it was like that was the secret or something because I actually respected them because of that.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of what helped me fall into going ahead and that one time, yeah, let me check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they all seem to be functional addicts,
Mm.
like, okay, these people, they're doing this meth and all the crazy I've heard about it and stuff. They seem to be functioning fine. They've got their lives together. It seemed like that's the key word here, kid. You just don't see the behind the scenes until you get on the scene yourself,
Mm.
and then you see the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, once I first picked that is where I learned what those people in NA and AA were talking about. That one's too many, a thousand's never enough. When I became addicted to meth because it was quick after that first time. If you go back to it, then boom, you get hooked.
So now you were starting to be able to relate to the frequent drinkers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of that addiction. I don't think I'd ever been addicted to anything in my life until meth, and that's where I became addicted. But that's still, I mean, I lived out there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
That first time I was out there,
So how long were you out there until you finally were like, oh, okay, look, I'll give it a try?
it took a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then it took 6 weeks for my life to fall apart.
Mm.
Yep. From first hitting that pipe, it only took me 6 weeks until I was because the problem with it was that there's never a convenient time to come down. You know, you smoke a little meth, you know you're going to be up for so many hours.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to go to sleep that night and stuff like that. And so then,
Yeah.
oh, it'd be like, okay, but then I can crash in the morning. But, oh, damn it. I've got this I've got to get to, you know? So I can't crash out then and crash out for 12 hours. So you
You're
got to keep
constantly
doing
giving
it.
yourself excuses to be taking it there.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was never a convenient time to come down and do that crash out that you got to do, you know, because it'd be a 10-hour, 10 to 12-hour sleep period you got to take, you know, after you're up for a couple days.
Yeah. So how did you get into that little snowball essentially? Like how did it just keep going?
Oh, because of all right, like say I got up that one afternoon and went ahead and accepted going ahead and hit that pipe.
Yeah. So what
Just
was day two then? Was it
a little
the
bit.
same thing, or were you like, well, no, I think I want to do a little bit more?
Well, it wasn't a daily thing right at first. It wasn't like
Okay.
immediate daily thing, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, but then all of a sudden you hit that time where then when you would be that's what I'm saying, then not a convenient time to come down. That's what'll start the snowball when you hit that first point
Yeah.
that okay, you've been up and man, you're about ready to crash, and then you realize, dang, I've got to be somewhere here and just like even if it ain't for 4 hours
Hmm.
that you got to be there, but you know you're going to crash for 10 to 12 hours, so you can't crash out. So you need to go ahead and just roll another bowl, you know, and keep going. And then once you get past that little appointment that you had or whatever, there's going to be something else in a few hours you got to do. And then something else and something else. So you got to keep going, keep going, keep
Just
going.
giving yourself those excuses to
Yeah.
keep it going.
I was out in Arizona delivering pizzas up for like 7 days and seeing shadow people walking down the sidewalks. And I had to, you know, tell myself in the head, that's not a real person. This is a shadow person. If it
Was
was
it
her,
like terrifying to you whenever like you first started like hallucinating that stuff, or?
not terrifying, just weird at first, because that's why I had to keep reminding myself, because I'm, you know, out driving on the road. If my mind would make that shadow person cross the street,
Mhm.
you know, I'd want to slam brakes or do whatever. No, but I had to keep it in my head. That's just a shadow person. But then say I'm telling myself that it's a shadow person and it is a real person. And
Mhm.
so then I don't hit the brakes if they go to cross the road in front of me. So something nasty could have happened. Never did, but yeah, I was, it was wild. And then I really, what saved me from that time,
Yeah, so that you were saying this went on for so you were out there first for a year and a half. It took about a year. So then what was going on for like the next like 5 or 6 months then? Oh,
oh, that was, like I said, it only took 6 weeks for
okay.
me to, you know, screw everything up. I lost my job, you know,
Okay.
because I couldn't report to work on time and stuff. I've got my sleep and everything schedule all thrown off. You don't realize what time and what day it is and stuff, and so I'm just
So
totally
you're
thrown.
awake, but you're not like cognizant of everything that's going on around you, or?
Well, just since you're just staying up constantly, you don't realize what day it is and what time it is. You're not paying attention to none of that. Yeah, so you don't realize, and then I'm just missing a day of work because I just didn't go in. You know, I'm sitting there awake as hell. No, yeah, but not going to work just because I don't even realize that's what I got to do, or going in an hour late and stuff. And then finally, all of a sudden, one day, you know, boss man calls me, look, man, you've been a great worker and everything, but whatever's going on here lately, nope, we can't do it no more. Gotta go.
So was that like the first incident, or yeah, I guess incident of things that was starting to spiral for you?
Yeah, that was the first there because I've always been a great worker, great work
Oh, yeah.
ethic and everything.
I attest to that too.
Yeah, and so that was the first real sign that something wrong here, but it didn't stop me because I've been saving, uh, tip money, you know?
Okay.
I save back all the time, and so I had a few $100 saved back, and, I had just recently before that happened, visited back home and visited my kids and my young
Here in Indiana?
Indiana, yeah,
Okay.
and, just came back to visit them, you know, just say hey, you know, after being gone for a little over a year, you know, just disappearing, boom, one day out of nowhere, not telling anybody.
What was that something that was kinda weighing on your heart while you were out in Arizona? Was like, "I just totally left my kids behind," or
Oh yeah,
yeah?
I definitely thought about that, you know, but and then I mean, I don't know, my youngest daughter was still a, I guess a toddler, you call her whatever,
Mhm.
you know, at that point when I came back and visited, and we were at this park playing, and we're going up the stairs to a slide
Okay.
and stuff, and she's in front of me, going up the stairs, and she turns around and just looks at me, and she said, "Dad, I haven't seen you all day," and that just got me,
That
dude.
hit you.
Yeah, for that little kid, I was gone for over a year,
Mhm.
and she said it like that, all day.
Wow.
Yeah, so I knew I had to come back and be in my kid's life, and then, so then when I got back and then ended up losing my job, I was like, "Screw it, I'm going back home anyway, I've got some money saved up,"
Mhm.
so I just sat back and kept doing the meth and just had 24/7 then.
Here in Indy, you were doing that.
Oh, no, that was back in
Oh,
Arizona.
you went back
Yeah,
there. Okay. Alright,
yeah.
alright, alright.
So, yeah, I went back to Arizona, lost the job, but said, "Screw it, I've got money saved to get me through till I'm gonna go back."
Yeah.
And so I'm just gonna sit back, and that's where I really got totally lost in it because I didn't have a job or any kind of responsibilities or work
What
about.
was kinda going on throughout that second time that you went back? What was were you just, like, not did you just not have initiative to just g go find a job or really anything? Or
No,
was your mind just dead set on, like, I have all this money, but were you spending all the money on the meth just to get by or, like
well, that's where there'd be some sick shit, man. You know? Yeah, where I mean, no, there'd be so much I could get since I was a newbie in smoking the meth and everything.
Mhm.
People are a little more free to let you smoke on theirs and hook you up for free.
Really?
Plus, the guy I lived with, he had a deal where the dealer guy who lived down the road and stuff, people would come to my buddy's house to get it, and then he would go down to the dealer's house. The dealer didn't want people, all these different people coming to his house,
Okay.
you know, for being noticed, you know, that
Sure,
something's going
dealer,
on.
like, "Well, don't you want the business to be coming?"
Yeah, but that's where he had that makes sense. That my buddy would have been like, I don't know what you'd call him, one of his legs or whatever.
Sure.
So that people came to my buddy's house, and then he would go down and get, and then when he would get for them, the guy would hook him up with a little bit for free
Really?
for making the sales for him and stuff, and coming to get it and keeping them away from his house and stuff. And so, and I got to know this dealer guy since it was my, you know, best friend that I was living with. I got introduced to him and got taken down to the house a few times and stuff. And so then all of a sudden there were times that these people would come by my buddy's house. He wasn't there, but I was there, and I had met the guy. Oh, I think I can go down and get that for you. Yeah, yeah, let me go try. And boom, it was able to happen. And so I was able to start getting little free bumps by doing those deals. And then you bring back to those people that are coming to get it, they're going to smoke some of theirs with you,
Sure.
and you're going to have a little extra in your pocket that you got for free for just doing the running. So yeah, that's what kept me going, and it didn't cost me money, which really isn't good for addiction, man. You know,
So you weren't also like, so you weren't sharing rent then?
I mean, I paid, yeah, I paid my buddy a little bit of rent
Okay,
money, yeah.
Okay. So that wasn't like taking too much off of you.
No, it wasn't. I was just renting too much off of you. No, it wasn't. I was just renting a room, like, what, $150 a month, something stupid like that, and then throw in on the electricity.
Yeah. So when your addiction, was it like the absolute lowest moment for you?
Oh, that'd be the second time I went out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So and really it's kind of I don't know what what's word what I'm blanking on here. A common theme or whatever of both times of getting out of this addiction was when I came back to Indiana. Is when I was able to get my ass clean. Like that first time I wanted to come back and be my kids' lives. I came back,
Yeah.
didn't mess with it. It wasn't really in Indiana like it was out in Arizona either, So it's not like I ran into it to even have the temptation. And then yeah, you fast forward, but I told my kids when I came back that time, they're like, man, okay, I found where I want to live. Arizona, I really agreed with the weather out there.
Mm-hmm.
It felt right for me. So I told them, once you guys grow up, Dad's going back out there, And then so then yeah, you fast forward some years and they got grown up, and but I did get started on meth before I went back out to Arizona the second time by a guy who was uh living with me and stuff, and he and his family was real big on the scene. And
Yep.
so I ended up getting into it there, ended up dealing it. And then there was a cop that had been sitting outside the trailer we knew was watching us and stuff. And then when he disappeared, all of a sudden, wasn't watching us anymore. And we got talking to people. They were like, yeah, that's how it happens. They'll sit out there. When you see him disappear, get ready for them to come kick your door in. Stuff. That's where they've gotten all the things they need. They're going back to get the warrants and the blah, blah, blah they need to then bring the SWAT team back and be kicking the door. So I all of a sudden at that point I was like, well, wait, kids are grown up. I was gonna go back to Arizona. Yeah, just sold the trailer. I don't know if the guy that bought the trailer off me, because it was a quick switch over, just the trailer and everything in it is yours, for like an awesome deal. If he ever got cops coming to his door, because of what I had been doing there before. Yeah. And then boom, zip back out to Arizona. And then when I first went, I was gonna stay clean. I stayed clean on the travel out there. I stopped in Colorado Springs and stayed for a couple weeks. Thought, well, man, I'm moving cross country. Why not take a little mini vacation? But then once I got to Arizona, Mesa,
Where's that?
the Mesa, that'd be like east of Phoenix. It's like a suburb of a suburb of a suburb or something.
Somewhat kind of like Scottsdale, where like Scottsdale is also kind of Phoenix, but not really Phoenix.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the way these suburbs from Phoenix work out there, you can't tell. If you're driving down the road, you can't tell. There's no break. It just seems like one big city. But no, you've entered into Glendale, and then,
That's how New York City is you'll be in Queens one second, then you'll be in Manhattan, then you'll be in the Bronx or, wherever,
yeah, but you can't really tell that you've changed.
I mean, you can kind of tell that New York, there's like, hey, this is Manhattan Island, and like everybody knows where all the different like little neighborhoods are. But have you ever been to New York?
No.
Okay, so if you had gone there for your first time, you'd be like, okay, where am I right now?
Yeah, it's just one big metropolis. Yeah, that's what it's like with Phoenix. All those suburbs, it's one big city, really. But Mesa would be like getting to your far east, and then there's Apache Junction, which would be kind of the last of the connected suburbs.
Apache Junction?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
That's the one where it starts to space back out.
Okay.
Actually more like country living, if you want to call that, in the desert though, Yeah. But once I got in the hotel, I made it maybe 2 months before it found me. Yeah.
Back to you again.
Yeah, because it's so prevalent out there. It's just ridiculous, man.
How long did it really kind of take you the second time? Because you said it took you about 2 months to find you. So like, was it immediate, or was it like I had an effect on you immediately, or was it like?
No, it was
That
almost like
gradual gain back into it.
it was a gradual game back. I was like the weekend warrior at first because man, when I landed in Mesa in 3 days, I had a job. Yeah, it was nothing to get this job, making decent money and working, and then it was about the same though after it found me after them couple months. It only took about 6 weeks, and I lost that job. Yep, I couldn't report to it in a timely manner and stuff, and they could tell something was going on. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, weekend warrior for maybe a couple, 3 weekends, and then you just do that one weekend where then that again, the not convenient time to come down.
Yeah.
I did too much on that Sunday, so I wasn't gonna get my sleep that Sunday night to go to work Monday morning, so I had to just stay on up all Sunday night and go to work Monday.
So what was, um, if you don't mind me asking you a little bit of your testimony here, but like what was that moment for you where you were at your lowest of lows and you understood this is a serious problem and I need to change?
Oh, man.
Was that out there in Arizona or was that
Oh,
back
yeah.
here in Indy?
Yeah, it'd be out there in Arizona. The crazy thing with it is the other addicts I was sitting there doing it with and everything, we would sit around while we're smoking the shit, and that's another thing, they called it the shit out there. "Can I get some shit, man? Can I get some shit?" "Yeah, dude, you got the good shit?" "Oh, yeah, I'll need them of that shit." They're like, "What is this fucking smoking a bunch of shit, man," calling it like it's something good. But, we'd be sitting around smoking that shit, and, then wait, oh, am I losing the PG back here? Poor one. Said that so many times, man. Wow, bleep, 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 bleep. You know, but anyway, hmm, we'd be sitting around having a smoke session and talking about how, oh, we hate this shit, how it ain't no good for us, and we need to stop. Oh, I mean, yeah, I hate this shit. This, you can pass it back, man. What are you hitting there?
I hate this, but can I have some?
Yeah, it's a Jones and all. But, yeah, and so that goes on for a while. And it all becomes a blur too. I can't really say in the timeline of it because I was out there for 3 years on top of the year I had been doing it before I went out
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah, and, I can't really say when it was in them 3 years of where that point would have been where I was realizing, "This is bad. I've got to try
So
and
there
stop
wasn't like
this."
that like night where you were just kind of like to yourself or anything or
No, yeah, it's like I can't really remember an exactness, because it's all blur. You're staying up for days at a time
but you
and
were
doing
still
crazy
able
shit.
to identify like, no, this is a problem.
Yeah, but it would be really like once you would finally do that crash out after being up for a few days, and then you wake up, get yourself good something to eat and everything like that, and then you're sitting there like, "Oh, okay, time to pick up pipe," and you might actually have that thought about like, "No, I need to stop this," because you would be in a more clear
Do
mind
you remember
at
the
that
first
point.
time that you said no? 'Cause
N
like you were just saying, like you wanna pick up that pipe, but like you have to tell yourself, no, do you remember that time
No,
or was that still a
no,
blur?
no, that was like no, honestly, even when I came back and was able to get done with it, um, there was a friend of my son's who I was living with when I first moved back to Indiana that second time, and, that was the local meth dealer. And so then it was too easy to get. I would go over to his place, and of course, he like any meth house, you got like 10 different projects going on that you're ripping this wall down, you're redoing these floors, you're putting a new garage roof on, and you're working on the car out in the garage and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So I'd just be able to volunteer my help with some stuff for a little bit of some meth. Yeah. Was able to work that. So it was too easy to keep going that second time I came back, and he ended up getting busted and going to jail. He's sitting
Your
in
son?
prison right now. Well, my son and him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the dealer. And that's when that ability to easily get it got taken away from me. when I was actually able to not do it.
Because you didn't have access to it.
Yeah, really was the real main reason. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if he wouldn't have gotten busted, where'd I'd even be today. Yeah. So it ain't like, yeah, that's what kind of sucks here. I don't got no strong thing to say about like what you need to do to be able to kick that habit because it to me, as me for a person, it's more of a thing of just don't ever start this drug, man, because the addiction hold that it does have on you. And even though I knew in my head for a long time, like I said, we'd sit around the sessions and we'd all be talking about how this stuff isn't good and we need to stop and all that, but none of us would, you know? I don't know why that happens that way. In your head that it's not good and you want to stop, but
Yeah.
you just can't. You just keep going back to it. The longest, anytime that I would honestly try on my own to stop and stop going around those people so that I wouldn't be around it and stuff like that, I'd make it 2 weeks and then I'd be running back.
And then you'd be running right
Yeah.
back again.
Yep.
So did you find it hard or kind of convicting on yourself to kind of, I guess, like within, like after 2 weeks, then like, fall off the wagon a little bit
But
or wait, is that the right way to use that phrase?
I don't know because I don't know exactly. Well,
No, I'm saying like so you were off of it for 2 weeks because of whatever access that you had to it. So was it convicting for you after 2 weeks to then go back, get it, and then start smoking it again? Like, did you just know internally, like, oh man, I really shouldn't be doing this, but like you just couldn't help it?
no, at that point, while you're running back to get it and stuff because you want it. Yeah, I wanted to
So you
get it.
didn't
I
have
made
any
it.
sort of self conviction. You were, I wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It wasn't like I was fighting myself or anything. I might be for over them 2 weeks to stay clean and not doing it.
Purposely.
I would have to be on myself in my head about like, no, 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 don't go do it. Don't go
So
run back to it.
what made it easy for you to, or maybe not made it easy, but like what was the catalyst that changed your mindset where it was like, no, no, shouldn't be doing this, but then you were like, no, but now I want it.
I would go to do some daily labor and, and then you get paid, you work that day, you go back and get a check for the work you did there.
It's
It'd
never
be like
time to come down.
$100 or so, and I would have that money. Boom. Oh, now I got the gas. I can go get this. And then, oh yeah, just this little bit because the pricing of it was actually had gone down over time, to where from that first time when I did it, back in 2008, 2009, the price of it was what they call $10 per point, 0.1, 0.2,
Oh, okay.
0.3 grams. So 0.1 gram would cost you $10,
And 0.1 gram is
Is
like
it
big.
very little?
Well, yeah, but like it and it's like highly potent at
Yeah.
0.1 grams or okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the weight amount of it, the potency just comes from whoever's making it, if they're making it good or not.
Who's cooking it?
Yeah. But then when I was doing it later, like $20, you could get like an 8 ball. It's 3.5 grams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you could get a whole 8 ball for $20 when before I think the deal on that would be $10 per point. If you're just buying per point, maybe like $80 or something. You might actually be able to get an 8 ball.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
This is good evidence right here to show I've never done. So this is all new terminology to me too.
You want to hit, man?
Yeah. So whenever you came back the second time, did you have another moment with your kids again where you were very devoted to like, no, I need to stay here for my kids?
Oh yeah. Definitely. And that was this time was my oldest daughter. Yeah, because I basically the second time I went out there to Arizona, I just ghosted her, you know? Th there might be if I look back through my Facebook messaging and stuff, there might be
Pretty good
a
gap.
couple times after I got to Arizona that I messaged her. We went back and forth maybe a couple times and
Is
stuff,
it
and then
okay if I ask, like, what kinda led to the fallout a little bit or why you kinda pushed away or
just, for me, the relationship I had with my oldest daughter was that because okay, again, she was, uh, from the loins of my best friend that I grew up with my whole life, and so then getting to raise her, it was really easy to be like a best friend with my daughter because I saw a lot of him in her as she grew up. And so it was like getting to redo life, just like when I grew up with my best friend, and raising his daughter, my daughter, whichever way you want to look at it. Um, so it made it real easy to be best friends with her. We had a really strong bond and everything. And so I think that's why I ended up kind of ghosting on her is because of getting into the meth. And I knew deep down, even though at first it's not like I was thinking, oh, this is bad and I don't need to be doing it. I knew in my subconscious that I was a fucked up individual at that point, and I didn't want her to know that of me.
Mm. So
And
you were kind of equally taking a little bit of your past out on her while you were also simultaneously not wanting her to see, like, this version of you.
yeah, I mean, for that, I wouldn't want her to because we were such good friends and we
Yeah.
had such a strong bond. I don't want somebody to see me like that, that
So
knows me like that.
so was it because of that that then whenever you came back that second time that you were very devoted to, like, "Well, no, like, I need to reconnect with her."
Yeah, and hope that she would give me a chance,
Mhm.
because at this point she's about like 30 years old now,
Mhm.
and I done ghosted her for the last 3 years. Don't know how it's gonna go. Maybe she might just, be done with me. And
Yeah.
but luckily she wasn't, and she gave me that chance, and now things are getting back great between us.
That's good.
But yeah, so really that was um my something, to hold strong to,
Mm.
that give me the drive and the will to want to stay straight and get back, on the right path in life.
So let's now move from the addiction to the recovery part.
Okay.
Um, so when did you um, really kind of come clean, and whenever you did, like, were there programs that you were looking for? Were there programs that other people were suggesting for you? Like, how did that kind of start for you?
No, because I had been, like I said, being court ordered to go to these programs way back in time
Oh, okay.
in my younger life. I learned the tools
Yeah.
that I needed back when I went that time. Because I actually, even though I was court ordered and everything, I actually listened and, participated
Hmm.
in what I was there to do.
Sure. Sure.
I wasn't going to just sit there and be an ignorant fool. I still, because I wanted to try and gain some kind of understanding of how I couldn't relate to these people, the way I had said
Hmm.
that, like, oh, if they have one drink, they're just boom, gone,
Hmm.
on a bender and stuff. I just couldn't understand that. So I was wanting to gain a better understanding that. And through doing that, I learned the tools and you know, for recognizing when you have a problem and what to do and,
Hmm.
how to go about it. And so I just used that I had learned from years before in, when I wanted to, I had a reason that I wanted to stay clean. I knew I had to stay clean if I
For your
had
family.
any chance and really, I mean, yeah, for the family, but I mean, I do got to say is my oldest daughter, because my son, when I first come back, he was, uh, in doing the ketamine. Yeah, and he would always go down in that K hole, they call it, real bad.
Okay.
And when him and his buddy ended up all getting busted, uh, and now he's sitting in prison for a couple years and stuff.
If you don't mind me asking you a little bit about that, like, do you see a little bit of yourself under your son?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course I do, because he is my son, you know?
Well,
Yeah,
I meant in that aspect.
but I still don't, I mean, understand, because he had different problems before with alcohol,
Mhm.
I in that, and then with other drugs and stuff, and he seemed to be one where I would always be kind of proud of him in a way,
Yeah.
because when he would get into something, he would learn about it. He would learn about it, about, like, how it is affecting his body, why it makes you feel, high,
So
you
he
know, and
was
stuff.
he was educated.
Yeah, he was educating himself on what is chemically going on and how this drug is affecting you, and it's like, but once he knew everything
Yeah.
like that and became really informed, he would push the envelope for himself
Really?
in doing that drug, yeah, and that's something that I can't relate to, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because he seems to do it with everything. The only thing for me that ever happened in was the meth, and that was just seemed more out of my control, I guess, in a way,
Sure.
because the never convenient time to come down
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
So continuing now back into talking about recovery a little bit. Um, do you start going back to groups
nope,
or no, really?
no, never. Um,
So a lot of this has just been you just taking a solo mission and just sticking with it.
yeah, well, because I remember too, some of the biggest thing, and that's why too, I haven't been, I mean, it's been a couple years now, I've been back clean, and, I haven't bothered hitting back up old buddies and stuff like that because I do remember in my life always seemed to, when I went out doing whatever,
Mhm.
I seemed to be a magnet for the wrong type of people
Mhm.
that I would meet. That's who would naturally come up to me or I would magnetize to. And then in the end, it ended up being not true friends and real people, you know? Yeah. So I've not gone back out to really try and, make new relationships. And I know I don't want to uh re-fire up any of them old ones, because yeah, this seems,
Because you know it's going to lead down a dark, slippery road.
yeah. So, that's one thing I've done. I've been able to, be able to keep my focus on where it's at, with just wanting to rebuild that relationship with my daughter. And, and I've been able to, I got back into a job right away,
Mhm.
getting clean, and I'm still at the same job now, and have advanced and stuff.
Yeah.
I've gotten back good to how I do things.
Do you find it easier to um, grow in your sobriety whenever there's that group of people where you can talk about your issues and um, have that sort of like connection to know you're not alone, or do you find it easier to be doing this solo?
Um, you- well, it hasn't been that bad doing it solo, and I don't like to reminisce, because that's one thing too when I'd be going to AA and NA before about it is like you got to be careful when you're going around the table and sharing and stories that you don't end up just telling a bunch of war stories, they'd call it, of,
Okay,
oh, and all this, and then you start talking about the times when you were drinking, all this, that, and it might actually start leading
it
to,
might trigger something.
yeah, yeah, till you start remembering maybe some of the good stuff, the good times when you were doing that, and then, yeah, you get that taste back in your mouth, so, that's why I haven't bothered, and I've been doing fine,
Yeah,
with it. Um, so, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna bother with that.
yeah,
And I mean, other than coming here to, on this podcast to,
yeah.
help you share for others, I don't like really reminiscing about those times. When I sit around on my own,
Sure.
I have done plenty of reminiscing to where I've been able to, and again, using the tools I've been given
Hmm.
by going to the meetings, um, be able to learn, still take a lot of good that whole time of my life for them 4 years I was on meth, wasn't a big waste and a big zero. There's a lot of good I can still take from
Yeah.
those experiences.
Let me ask you this then, because I know that you're also pretty thoughtful and pretty spiritual guy yourself. What sort of stuff has like kind of, I guess, spoken to you um, spiritually throughout all those throughout all this stuff that you've really kind of just struggled with, and how you've grown?
Um, hmm.
That's a bit of a loaded
I
question.
know, I know. It is a little bit up there. Um, I don't know, the spiritual that's still actually something that I was talking with my son about one time we was, talking on the phone,
Mhm.
about where I feel that, like, okay, I got back, I got off the drug, I got a job, okay, I got my own apartment and stuff, and I'm being stable and everything,
Mhm.
and, I get out to do a few things, nothing much though, and, but, I play bass, and I've always played bass, since I was, like, 15 years old, but the music side of me hasn't gotten back strong, I haven't got a strong driving force in that, and that was something I always loved of writing songs, and everything. That hasn't gotten back, and I realized at one point that is the part of me that is that I haven't gotten back in touch with is my spiritual side, so that I believe is kind of the next step that I'm looking to be doing right now in my recovery is get
How do
that
you
part back.
hmm, how do you plan to do that? Like, what kind of steps are you thinking about?
Well, there's a couple uh Buddhist uh little handbooks that I have, and then there's my meditation book, because I know that was a big thing
Mhm.
as I grew spiritually, after that accident I had and stuff. That was my spiritual awakening, and then I started growing spiritually, and when I got up to actually practicing meditation and getting into that, that was really big step for me. So that's where I'm looking at starting back into
Mhm.
is reading it. Because too, because as I was growing spiritually, my son, the first time he got busted doing stuff, and he had to go through a rehab and then come back and do all his probation stuff, but and through that rehab and getting clean, and then he started getting into Buddhism, and then I was just growing spiritually as stuff would come to me, and through time when we would talk on the phone and stuff that he had been learning through his uh, Buddhist studies and stuff that I was learning on my spiritual journey just coming to me naturally, they would line up and be a lot the same at the times, and that's where I kinda got this feeling that, man, it seems like out of all of your different religions and stuff, it seems to me like, Buddhism is the one that's kinda got it, down better or whatever. 'Cause, one of the things with that is that they, they're big on the, whole man, why am I blanking on the word? Reincarnation.
Oh,
The with, like, karma and that, and the totality of your actions in
yeah.
this life is going to set in for your next life, basically of what you need to still learn,
Sure.
what you need to
Mhm.
still do. Yeah, um, and that's just always a big thing because, I mean, on that side of things of the spirituality, I just remember from being a very young child, like 6, 7 years old, that I remember telling people this too. I never knew what they thought of me talking this type of crap as a little kid. Maybe he thought, "Oh, he's just talking to his imaginary friend or whatever." But I remember telling him that I've got 2 messages to myself,
Mhm.
and one was, "I'm not from here," and the other is, "You gotta get it right this time."
Mm.
And yeah, and, and I truly felt that as a young child when you're still more pure, you haven't been corrupted by this world and its ways.
Mhm.
Um, I for some reason as a young child, I said it like that too. I've got 2 messages to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Some of that I would even say, like as a Christian myself, does play into Christianity. You know, we're not from here. We're from, you know, our Heavenly Father, you know, and you got to get it right this time is definitely along the lines of salvation,
yeah.
100%. So
Yeah, but the whole this time thing, you know,
yeah,
that's and the difference of with Christianity and they don't, you know, believe in the reincarnation. You
mhm,
know, like you've got one time through this life, and you know, I feel that I have been here before, and I'm here again, and that I learned from the last time that man, I don't want to keep doing this crazy trip on this blue ball, you know, spinning around like mad. So you know, I got to get it right this time, so I can get off this maddening trip onto the next level or plane or whatever you want to look at it as.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I am curious to pick your brain a little bit for anybody that is listening and is probably struggling in their own addiction or you know wanting to make those moves to recovery. Um, Obviously, you benefited really well from your solo journey. Is that something you would recommend to other people, or would you recommend to people like, no, like, yes, this did work for me, but it's not going to work for you. So go to a group, or how
Mm,
would you kind of
Well, it like I said, I used the tools that I learned years ago from going to them
from going to those
groups.
groups?
Yeah,
Okay.
if I wouldn't have had that,
Hmm.
yeah, it wouldn't have been nowhere near as easy to try and do a solo. So yes, I mean, definitely the groups do help you, you know, attain those tools you need to recognize. And then, you know, 'cause part of a recovery too, which I haven't had this and I hope I never do, is relapse, you know.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to get through that relapse
Hmm.
and get back on, you know, straight and going.
Yeah.
And without those tools, you know, and the even like, you know, the congregation of fellow addicts, you know, there to help support you if you can relapse and then get back to a meeting or
Hmm.
whatever and then share at that meeting. They'll totally all understand. They are not going to hate you for relapsing, and they're going to come console you and give you pointers and help, anything you need.
Have you
You
ever
know,
thought about going to a group and becoming a sponsor to help somebody else, or
yeah, that's the one thing I have thought of like once I get
you think like
uh
once you get to a certain point yourself, you might try that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've thought about going back and dropping by the Fellow of Hope, the Fellowship of Hope, you know, because that's where most of the meetings. That's the one that I liked the people and I went to a
Okay.
lot back in the day. Of actually just showing up one day and all of a sudden and sharing, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I look like I'll probably do that at some point.
At some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel it's important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To
Now that I understand the depth of addiction, you know, I never did before when I had to go there, and now I do.
yeah.
So now I know that all I want to do is help others
Mhm.
with these problems.
Yeah. Whenever you were in those groups and you were using those tools, even throughout your sorry, your solo journey, what were you finding was kind of the core to your addiction? Was it stuff that people were kind of helping you identify, um, like stuff with like your father you'd never met, or like how you were raised as a kid, or like certain aspects of your life that you were kind of missing, and that's why you fell into the vice, or what were some of those core things that you were kinda identifying?
Well, it would be more like I had lost the you know, and you know this from working with me and stuff, man. You know, I've always known I'm an awesome mother or an awesome dude. Wait, cut. it. I've always known I'm an awesome dude. And so, you know, I mean, I did that for the editing, man, you know? Uh, and through my addiction, I had lost that. I did not I had no faith and belief in myself anymore and stuff, you know,
Mhm.
of getting lost. Addiction, like I said, we'd sit around and talk about how we knew this was bad for us, but for some reason we couldn't stop.
Right.
You know, so that started just tearing me down in my own mind, you know, of looking at me like man, you're worthless and shit, you know. You have no self-discipline, you have no strength, no, you know. And is was focusing back on that and you know, getting back to that point of realizing that, you know what, I am awesome and I can do this and I want to do this. I am going to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and
It was fighting that voice.
yeah, it is my own voice. If I fight, you know, so now there's 3 of me up in there, man, you know, my Jesus. Yeah. So, and really, I mean, I gotta give it up to my daughter, you know, because that was during the
Both of them, or
no, my oldest, really, you know, 'cause that was the one that, um, I knew I had lost a relationship with, and I wanted to get it back. I was just hoping and praying she would give me the chance, and I was clean for probably about, 4 or 5 months before I first got to go over to her house and sit and visit and stuff that first time. Um, and so that's what kept me going during them first few months, which is the hardest, you know, really.
Yeah, because that was going to be the next thing that I was going to ask you was how does that recovery walk look, and where's it most difficult, and where does it become easy, if it ever does?
Mm, well, yeah, and it's gotten easier to do now that I'm a couple years, you know, sober,
Right,
clean.
right here. Let's keep.
Yeah,
Yep. Hmm.
um, but, you know, I don't yeah, I don't have any desire or anything to go seek it out or ever do it or anything again, you know? I know that I don't want to, uh, but in that beginning time, you know, you're just so used to
Getting over
doing
that
it
hump was
every day, yeah. You have to have something like I'm saying, it was wanting to get that relationship back with my daughter, you know, I knew I wanted more than anything. So that was what I held on to keep me strong, you know, and, uh, and so I gotta give it up to her, you know,
yeah,
"Hey, Madison," you know, "Oh, yeah." And I've told her this too, you know,
yeah.
so she knows, that she's the main reason why I was able to get and stay clean and do this.
Well,
And now
recently you recently got to go to your other daughter's graduation too, so that had to be rewarding as well for you.
yeah. Well, now, yeah, there's been all sorts of stuff, you know, yeah, I mean, my youngest daughter graduated high school, and then she, went quickly did, like, I guess just, like, the basic, prerequisite stuff and all that to have that out of the way for when she wants to go back to college for whatever degree and
Yeah,
stuff, so and then she got all that done, and then, yeah, my oldest daughter, was putting herself through the PTA program and graduated that. That was a big because that is not an easy program. Yeah, and so she made it through that, and so yeah, there's been some moments, you know, that I can be proud of, you know,
mhm,
my daughters, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and and I just don't now it's different because I actually want it for myself, you know?
mm,
I got to that point, you know? I had to use that my daughter and wanting to get that relationship back to hold on too strong enough because
sure.
the way I was talking down to myself in my head
If those
at the
demons getting
beginning,
to you.
yeah, if it would have been solely on if I just want this for myself, it wouldn't have been enough to, you know, but like they say with the getting over addiction, you have to want it for yourself to truly get through it, you know. But so that was where, you know, I had to use that crutch at first to help me get through the beginning times. But then once I got so far along, I was able to get clear headed enough and get back working and back realizing that I am awesome and I am, you know, this and I do want this and I do want that. You know, I was able to get that clear in my head and then actually do it for myself.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would this is just me man to man with you, no cameras or anything, but just honestly, just man to man to you, like, working with you and really seeing the efforts that you've really put into yourself. Just only just noticing those things just for, at time that I am with you is only really at work mostly.
Yeah.
Like I can tell that you've really worked hard to change your life and to really be a different person
Oh, yeah.
from where you were. And I gotta be honest, like it makes me proud to talk about you. It makes me proud to know you, and it makes me proud to have you on the show to talk about this stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So, um,
And that's what it's good too for me to get that from outside people,
mm,
like with my daughter and, all my kids and even my ex-wife and stuff, it's important to get that feedback from others and get that positive,
yeah.
that does help
Well,
a
no, I
lot.
really am proud of you because I mean you've also been taking initiative to come with me to the gym sometimes too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you haven't been back a few times.
I know.
But no, you again, you made it again a very conscious decision. Like, well, no, I want to start taking better care of my health and my physicality too.
Yeah.
And
Physicality. See with your big words, physicality. Yes.
it's a common word, and I think
Specificity.
specificity. Yeah.
Specificity.
Um. So sticking with the theme of the show here and changing people's perceptions, how would you change people's perception about recovery? Like, what do you think is a big misconception about it that you would really want to just change today?
A misconception
Yeah.
about recovery?
Yeah.
Hmm. I don't know. I can't really
Yeah.
think off the top of my head a misconception about recovery.
Well,
Uh,
how would you change the perception of recovery for people that want to, or maybe considering it, but they're just like, I don't know if I want to sit in a room all day and talk about my
yeah.
feelings or.
No, it's well worth it. Um, because like I said, if I wouldn't have had those tools that I had learned and retained from going to the group settings and stuff, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have known how to, you know. So I think that's more the reason I was able to do it on the solo, deal. But so yes, I would say strongly that seek out, a group and you might have to go to some different groups to find that group that you vibe with, the people there. Because
Yeah,
I've
don't just
been,
give up after one.
yeah, yeah. Don't just go to one and oh man, these people suck. I could feel them looking at me with their eyes. Okay, that's what you do. You gotta look at people with your eyes to see them. But generally how it works. Like you're saying to yourself, man, they're looking at me all like they're looking down on you and stuff. Like, no, they're not. They're
Yeah.
fellow addicts. But just like people of the world, everybody don't get along with everyone. So you got to find your group
Sure.
that you're going to be able to work with, and uh, you got to find something. Even like I had to at first, even if you don't have enough strength to do it all for yourself, find another reason. Like
What
I
would
did
you
with
do?
my daughter, I did not want her to see me like that, and that was a big enough thing to help me get through the beginning times. Yeah. So, but in the end, you do have to do it for yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to get to that
Because
point.
the first step is realizing you have a problem.
Yeah.
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 But even realizing, but that was, see, I did that first step back, a couple years before I ever got done doing it. I realized that I had a problem with this and this drug wasn't good and I need to be stopping. We'd be sitting there while we're smoking it, talking about that crap,
Yeah.
and then continue smoking daily. So yeah, even having that realization of the first step and getting through that isn't going to be enough. You've got to find something that's gonna, you know, pull you out of it.
Mm-hmm. And pulling it out for you was your family, was your daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's been, and, so I love her more than ever. You know, I always have, but now even more than ever, yeah,
ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
ever.
So we're gonna wrap up here. I want you to take a look at that camera, and if you have any parting words for anybody who is struggling, um, I want you to have like this be like your moment to talk to them. Guys.
Well, no, there was one important thing I wanted to say to everybody out there, man. You probably noticed that I got no teeth. That's not from the meth, man. I mean, I know it is with a lot of people. They get the meth mouth and they lose their teeth and everything. No, mine was already happening, you know, before I got into the meth. My teeth were starting to fall apart in my mouth, and I brushed daily, you know, and stuff. So it wasn't from that. It's just a genetic thing with my family. My mom told me, yeah, once we get in our 30s, our teeth start to rot from the inside out, and that's how it goes. And
Great. Well, I'm turning 30 in January.
yeah,
This will be great.
well, no, that's my family, Junaid. Not yours. But so yeah, the teeth were already going down, you know, before the Mets. So that's not why. And these have been professionally extracted by a dentist. So, you know, I mean, but yeah, so people could be thinking that out there. It's really important that you don't think that of me. I heard a bunch of chatter, I see a bunch of comments. I'm gonna go back to the pipe. No, I won't.
But yeah, I'll give the floor is yours for any parting messages for anybody watching right now, and any help or guidance that you want to offer.
Well, really, what my take on with meth is just, man, don't ever do it that first time. For anybody out there that hasn't ever come into contact with it, if you ever do, don't do it. Just trust me, you don't wanna do it that first time. It's not worth it, and the aftermath is definitely not worth it, and everything I've had to go through, because I mean, it was weird after, you know, being a meth head and stuff when I first started recovery. I mean, it started from, it was weird to sleep every night, you know? Like, people actually sleep, like, every night you gotta do this? Oh my god, dude, I'd forgotten that. Yeah, that's
People
normal life.
between 6 to 8 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that was weird to do. And then, feeling emotions, processing emotions, and then how you act and react, and I mean, I've had to relearn so much. So, you know, it's just not worth it, man. Just don't ever do that drug.
What about for somebody who's struggling right now with it?
You've got to find something, even if it's not for yourself. Like I had to with the relationship with my daughter. There has to be something like that in your life that you can want strong enough that's going to help you get through, you know, the beginning, because you've got to get through about a good 3 months before you can start relaxing a little. And just like they say in the meetings, man, one of the biggest things is you've got to change your people, places, and things. That's a big one. If you don't change your people, places, or things, you're gonna wind back up to continue doing it, you know? Yeah. So that's been a big one. I know that I've in my recovery,
Yeah.
that has been a big factor in making sure I don't go back and, you know, hooking up with old friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been tough. I mean, you sit around feeling lonely sometimes, you know, a lot of times. But then I realized I'd rather be alone and straight and happy and healthy than get back in
Yeah.
to, yeah, the addiction.
Well, and again, man, I'm really proud of you. I really am.
Well, thank you.
I mean that sincerely. I think, and especially after hearing your story today, like actually hearing like the whole story, because you've given me bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But to actually hear whole story now is definitely a lot more sobering for me, and just really, I guess, kind of just, no, no, it just speaks to me the volumes of the effort and the work that you've done, and it's really admirable, really, really great stuff. So I'm proud to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. If you liked today's episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I am the host, Thomas Casey Zellers. You've been watching the Perception Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.